Client in my gut balance method program recently asked me just the other day, Erin, what does bloating actually feel like? So I flipped the question back to her and I asked, well, what does bloating feel like to you? Because here's the thing, most people don't realize that there's actually a difference between bloating, distension, belly fat, and visceral hypersensitivity. They're not the same thing. And if you're constantly wondering, why am I always bloated? Even though you're eating healthy and trying to do all the right things, this video is for you. I'm Erin Harner, integrated registered dietitian nutritionist and gut health coach. Let's break down why bloating happens, what it really means, and why nothing you've tried has worked long term. Let's start by talking about what bloating actually is. Bloating is that uncomfortable, swollen, gassy feeling in your belly where you think, am I really full or is something actually wrong? It's a sensation. It's a feeling of pressure, fullness, or discomfort in your belly, usually right around your belly button, and not necessarily something you can see in the mirror. And for some people, especially if you have diagnosed IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, that sensation can actually feel way worse than it is. This is called visceral hypersensitivity, and it basically means that your gut nerves are extra sensitive. So you feel gas pressure or normal digestion more intensely than other people would. But it feels like a balloon blowing up inside your belly. That's the hypersensitivity piece. This is why bloating can be so frustrating. You're not imagining it, and your gut is just sending louder signals than it needs to. Distension is a little bit different. Distension is what your belly looks like when you tell me that you feel like you're 6 months pregnant by the end of the day. It's something that you can actually measure. So if you were to use a measuring tape and wrap it around your belly, oftentimes in the morning is when people have the flattest belly, right around your belly button. And by the end of the day, it measures bigger. Let's say you gained 2 to 3 inches. That's not real weight gain or belly gain. That's distension, when your belly is actually measuring bigger. It looks bigger too. Belly fat is something else entirely. That's stored fat, not trapped gas or digestion issues. This often occurs with visceral fat that occurs around the organs and can feel like heaviness in the abdomen. And sometimes it's not actually bloating at all. It's actually water retention or just feeling puffy or salty after a meal. So when we think about bloating, we want to dig a little deeper. We don't just want to understand it at the surface level. What's actually happening here? Is it bloating? Is it visceral hypersensitivity? Is it distension? What's going on? And there's a number of other things that feel like bloating, but aren't actually bloating. So let's get into some of those because it's really helpful to know what it also isn't. So water retention. So let's say you go out to a restaurant and you have a really salty dinner, and the next day you feel really bloated and kind of blah. That would be water retention most likely, because all that salt is causing your body to retain water. And that will occur in your digestive system, in your belly, and also oftentimes in your fingers. Like you might have a hard time getting your rings off, for example. It can also happen with air travel. You go up in an airplane, you're at a higher altitude, and you have some water retention. You feel heavier and puffy, but it's not gas in your belly. Also with belly fat, as I mentioned, especially the accrual of belly fat around your abdomen, visceral adipose tissue, it's deeper in than on the surface. So it can be a little hard sometimes to distinguish the difference between true bloating and belly fat. And it could be fat gain, especially if it's visceral adipose tissue or around your organs. And that's the dangerous kind of fat. That's not the kind of fat that we want to have a lot of. Also, we have hormonal shifts. So if you notice that you have more bloating or feelings of fullness or pressure in your belly around your cycle, that's something to keep in mind. You might feel heavier or fuller because of fluid retention and slower digestion. And this is related to shifting hormones. When your progesterone and estrogen are shifting, that can contribute to that feeling of fullness and bloating. But it's different than gas pressure. That's related to the hormone shifts. Also, we have constipation. One thing I find with people who experience a lot of bloating is they're constipated. When we have a lot of backed up stool in the GI tract, it can trap gas, and that gas has nowhere to go. So sometimes it'll push out and create bloating and distension. So something to keep in mind is that feeling that pressure or fullness from the backed up stool or constipation can actually feel like bloating, but it's stool, it's not gas. So that's something to keep in mind. And one other pro tip here is that oftentimes when we can relieve the constipation and get you going to the bathroom regularly 1 to 3 times a day, the bloating will relieve itself. It'll go away when we can resolve the constipation. Also, sometimes we can have postural or core weakness, and that is really when your belly sticks out when the core is either disengaged or the belly muscles are not strong enough to hold everything in and hold everything together. And I see this most often with women who have had babies or multiple babies and their abdomen has gotten really stretched out. Or maybe they've had diagnoses of diastasis recti, where the abdominal muscles are actually separating. And this isn't bloating either, it's core weakness. Right? So how we address these different things is different. Also, we can have some gas trapped up higher in the gut, and this can feel like upper belly pressure or even chest discomfort, but not your classic bloat. Usually classic bloating is really going to be lower in the belly, and my hands are down on my belly here, you can't see them, but the classic bloat is going to be down around your belly button, somewhere in your lower abdomen. So by the way, if you're already thinking like, okay, but how do I know what's actually going on in my gut? That's exactly why I created the Gut Clarity Quiz. So it's a free 2-minute quiz to help you figure out why you're stuck and what to do next. So you'll find it in the link below. I strongly encourage you to grab that. It is super, super helpful for understanding next steps. Next, let's jump into when and why true bloating happens. So oftentimes we can have bloating after meals, even meals that are usually safe or eating safe foods. Sometimes it occurs randomly in the afternoon or evening, especially if you've been under a lot of stress or you've been traveling. That air travel, for example, great example of when a lot of people experience bloating. You're going up in the sky, we can have some trapped gas that happens in our bellies. Around your period, because yes, digestion is affected by hormonal shifts. And also when gut motility slows down. If you're stressed, if you're constipated, or you're not moving enough, that can contribute to bloating for sure. And also the other one I see all the time is when we have imbalances in the microbiome. This could be things present that we don't want to be present, like pathogens or parasites. Or on the flip side, we can have insufficient gut commensals or keystone bacteria. And these are your good guys. These are your probiotics that we want to have in abundance in your gut. So when we have overgrowth or we have insufficiencies, it can definitely contribute to bloating. And I want to just share why some of the things that you've tried might not have worked. So most people grab for symptom hacks. Like if you feel bloated, you grab some gas drops or some methicone, probiotics, you cut out more foods, you try some enzymes. But bloating is usually a sign that something deeper is going on. There's a deeper source of gut dysfunction, not just a food issue. The food issue is one of the things that alerts you that something deeper is going on in the digestive system and in the gut. It also could be low stomach acid, slow motility, microbiome imbalances, or a combination of a lot of different factors. But the key here is if you're consistently feeling bloated or distended or you have a lot of visceral hypersensitivity, it's really, really important to dig deeper to understand what's going on. And that's where my gut health quiz can be super helpful to figure out the next best steps are. Chasing symptoms won't work if you're not actually fixing the system that has the dysfunction. So in this case, gut dysfunction can lock you into the hidden gut trap, where you're consistently trying new things, trying to make yourself feel better and get rid of the bloating, but you're chasing the bloating, not fixing the problem. We've got to dig deeper. You keep trying to manage the bloating without solving the real issue. And it leads to more restriction, more supplements, and a lot more frustration. And bloating is one of the most common ways people get stuck here. It's also when we're resolving a lot of the gut symptoms that you're experiencing, one of the last things to actually go away. So that's something to keep in mind. First, we have to resolve constipation or motility issues if they're present, and the bloating will follow. So if you're tired of bloating and ready to stop chasing symptoms, I want you to take the Gut Clarity Quiz. It'll help you figure out what phase your gut is in and what your best next steps should be. The link is below. Also, if this video hit home for you, make sure to watch the next one. It's called One Symptom, Different Roots. And it's all about why gut healing is never a one-size-fits-all approach and why one symptom like bloating can have many different root causes. If you've been trying random fixes without results, this is going to help you connect the dots. I'll see you there.